Hey, Mary. How you doing? Good to see everyone this morning. I think I'm on, aren't I? Yeah. Take your Bibles and turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 7. I'm going to read verses 21 through 29, and I'll get started. Verse 21. And I should say I didn't cover verse 20 last week. Let me just talk to that real quick. For there is not a just man upon earth that doeth good and sinneth not. Really, that's the Old Testament version of for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And it's true. It's true in the Old Testament and it's true in the New. Verse 21. Also take no heed unto all words that are spoken, lest thou hear thy servant curse thee. For oftentimes thine own heart knoweth that thou thyself likewise hast cursed others. All this have I proven by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. Hey, Luke. It was far from me. Verse 24. That which is far off and exceeding deep, who can find it out? I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reasons of things and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Now, that verse is not talking about any of the women in here, okay? I want to be very clear about that. Verse 27, Behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one, to find out the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I found not. Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. Going back to verse 21, and take no heed unto the words that are spoken. You know, we live in a time where everyone is offended by something that's said. It blows my mind. You can't say a thing. You can't call a person a specific race. You can't call a person. I got an email from work the other day, and it blew my mind. The guy he was a training guy, and he had his name at the bottom of the email with his name, phone number, and all that, and next to it in parentheses, him, his, or something else. I'm thinking, okay, I sort of got that. I know who you are. I know you're a he or a him, but that blows my mind that there are people that are offended that you reference them to be a certain gender. Wow. I mean, it's craziness. People are offended about the craziest things. You know, we hear many words in life. I believe, and I've told Roy this many times, I believe life is about this. It's about relationships. It's about interacting. All the other things are a part of life, but me interacting with Linda and me interacting with you and you with me, that's what life is really about. But the prudent man, we're having all the guys in the middle, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. I wish that one day I would be brave enough to wear a bow tie. I really want to, but I don't have the guts yet. I'm trying to work it up. I love bow ties, but I think they would think, what does that old man think he's trying to do? I know Phil would think that, wouldn't you, Phil? See, I got no response. I know he would. But the prudent man, with the words that are said from anybody, friend or foe, he carefully considers the words that he listens to. It would do us good to be careful in considering the things that we say. Let me give you some examples of that. We've heard that the coronavirus 2 years ago started in the wet markets in Wuhan, China, where they were selling bats. Well, that was the news story of the day. This is where it came from. That's what we heard. Many people have heeded what they heard. But recently, we have found out that it was developed in a virology lab in China by the Communist Party, and the virus escaped. Be careful what you listen to in life, good or bad. We need to be careful what we hear and take as the gospel. We have heard, and Roy Jr. will like this point and understand this because I know his love of politics. We've heard from many sources that President Trump colluded with the Russians. That's all any news media said, that President Trump colluded, and it was the truth according to them. Be careful what you listen to and accept, because we found out that that was actually information that was planted by the Clinton campaign. Be careful what you listen to in life. When you listen to the wrong things and you start believing the wrong people, it becomes easy to be offended about stupid stuff. And we see that a lot. We've heard in bygone days, probably earlier in our life, we may even hear it today from others, that you need to be good in order to go to heaven. People hear that and they believe it. But we know that's not the truth. We know it's not by works of righteousness which we have done. My point is, and I hope you're beginning to see that, we need to be careful what we listen to. Verse 21 again says, also take no heed unto all words. Take no heed, because it's said. Somebody says it doesn't mean we need to heed it. Comprende? Do you get what I'm saying? The point is, take no heed unto all words. The wise man carefully chooses what he will listen to. The wise man thinks about what he's heard and doesn't decide whether that's factual or a falsehood. Whether it's listening to a specific preacher, whether it's listening to specific music, whether it's looking or reading specific books, be careful what you listen to. The wise man carefully assesses what he listens to. You know, I think everybody understands this. Imperfection resides with the best of man. The best of men here, at times, will say things that are wrong. The best of men here, myself included, I know you find that very hard to believe, but the best of men will say things that are not right. Maybe not intentionally, but it's true. That's why in the New Testament it says they searched the Scriptures daily to see whether those things were so. What things were they trying to search and compare to? The things they heard from the preacher. They searched daily to see whether those things are so. Solomon is saying that in verse 21. Be careful what you listen to. No man is wise all the time. The wisest man among us, we need to think about what's being said. Foolish words and unguarded expressions will sometimes escape the lips of good men. I won't tell you who this was. A guy that I respected. I was a young guy. I was probably late 20s or so. And a preacher that I respected. I heard him say, he was here at church, and it wasn't from the pulpit. It was interacting with me and one other person. I don't recall who that was. And he said something. I thought, did he just say? I won't tell you what he said. Did he just say that? I couldn't believe it, what I heard come out of his mouth. The best of men, the wisest of men, will say things at times that they shouldn't say. Isn't that right, Phil? Not that you ever do. Be careful what you heed, what you listen to. I had to search in my heart a long time to realize that's still a good man. He's still a good man. He's an imperfect man, but he's a good man. And that had the potential to really damage my Christian walk. I had to be careful what I heeded. And by the way, he's still a good man. He's deceased now, but he was a good man for the rest of his life. He's an imperfect man. The prudent man is diligent to examine what he has heard, because words influence us. Do you know you influence me and I influence you? It's been said the only difference between Jeff today and a year from now are the things that I read and the people I interact with and get to know. Why? Because we influence each other. And as a wise, prudent person, we should heed what we listen to. Is that making sense? I hope that makes sense. It's true. A man should not listen to everything that is said of others or himself. Let me ask you this. Do you like to hear good things about yourself? You do, don't you? We all do. We love that. Don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. We don't like to hear bad things about us. I'm probably going to embarrass Jackson right now. That dude's a good basketball player. I'm going to tell you what, he can play basketball. But don't let that go to your head. And that's what ends up happening when we don't heed what we listen to. Phil, that guy knows about building, man. I sit there and I've learned from him and Eugene over the last few months. I'm thinking, how do you learn all that stuff? Don't let that go to your head, that you know it all, because I don't care how good you are. There's somebody better. I don't care how much you know. There's somebody that knows more. Whether it's good or bad, watch out what you heed. Watch out what you listen to. The verse goes on. When, let me see. Yeah, let's go on. Lest thou hear thy servant curse thee. You know, at times of life, we will hear people speak derogatorily about you. Has anybody ever talked bad about you? I would raise this hand and my feet. I've had people say things I'm thinking, where in the world did you even get that? Don't heed it. Don't heed that either. Hey, Josh. People will scoff at us. They will reproach us. Look in 2 Samuel chapter 16 with Shimei and David. 2 Samuel chapter 16. I want to show you somebody that was derogatorily talking to King David, was going after him. I'm going to show you his response. 2 Samuel 16, starting at verse number 5. And when King David came to Bahurim, behold, thence came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, son of Gera. He came forth, and he cursed still as he came, talking derogatorily about King David. Be careful what we heed in life, whether it's good or bad. Verse number 6, and he cast stones at David and at all the servants of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. And thus said Shimei when he cursed, come out, thou bloody man, and thou man of Belial. You know what he's saying? You don't even serve God. You don't even serve Jehovah. You're a wicked man. And I love David's response that he didn't go after the guy. Verse number 8, let me say this. Lord hath returned upon thee all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose stead thou hast reigned, and the Lord delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom thy son. And behold, thou art taken in thy mischief, because thou art a bloody man. He was going after David's heart there. He was saying so much, not only do you not serve God, your own son is against you. That's what kind of guy you are. He was talking about him in the worst possible manner that he could talk about him. And verse number 10, and the king says, what have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah? So let him curse, because the Lord has said unto him, curse David. Who shall then say, wherefore hast thou done so? You know, you're going to be talked about. If Jackson continued to play basketball and went into college and played basketball collegiately, no matter how good you are, there's a newspaper writer that's going to write about how bad you are. You look at the University of Memphis, isn't that right, Matt? Some great players, but man, they catch it. We need to learn not to listen. Not to listen to the good things that are said about us, not to listen to the bad things that are said about us. It will change our attitude of life when we do that. We won't be offended by all the things that offend everybody in this world today. Verse number 22. Let me move there just for time's sake. I took way too much time there. For sometimes also thine own heart knoweth that thou likewise hast cursed others. Have you? Have you, Autumn? Have you, Jeff? Yeah. Yeah, I have. Have I said things that were wrong about others? Yeah. Have I had ill will to somebody else? Yeah. And my suspicions are, so have you. Everybody here. That's one reason why we shouldn't listen to what people say, because we've done the same thing to other people. We've spread falsehoods, we've given bad information, we have lied about someone or something. And verse 22 continues, that thou thyself likewise has cursed others. We've spoken contemptibly about others, we've reviled and reproached them, and I'll move on to verse 23. Everybody gets it because we've all done it, haven't we? Verse 23, all this have I proven by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. He said, man, I've tried. I've worked hard. I've tried to be wise. I've everything that I've told you in the entire book of Ecclesiastes, but specifically in this chapter, I have proven them. I have seen the vanity of them. I've tried to be a smart, wise guy naturally, but I've tried to prove pleasure and power and riches. And 23 continues, and I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. Have you ever done something foolish? I just think that most of us, to a little degree, think we have some wisdom. But we've all still done stupid stuff, haven't we? Have you ever seen somebody do something and you think, what the world are they thinking? Why in the world are they doing that? It's sort of like this to me. I sort of see wisdom that we possess and folly a lot like the term sophomore. Do you know what that term means? It's a Greek term with two words put together. The S-O-P-H-O-S, sophs, it means this, clever and wise. And then you look at the second half of that word, the Greek word, and it's moros, M-O-R-O-S, sophomore, which means foolish. So a sophomore, the term actually means a wise fool. And that, the reason behind that is because when you get through that freshman year, you have learned a lot, haven't you? You're ready to go out and slay the world because you know it all. But you're a fool. In life, we're sophomores. We possess some wisdom, absolutely. You're showing wisdom by being in church today. That's wise. But I imagine in some of the actions that we take in life, with others looking, we'll think, what in the world is Jeff doing? He's just a sophomore. That's all he is a sophomore. We need to clearly understand we do not know it all. I got to tell you, I am truly, truly impressed by Eugene and Phil's knowledge in building. I am. I mean, they do some little thing on a corner, and I'm thinking, I don't even know how to begin to even think about how to do that. They get it. They understand all the nuances of that. But I don't care how much you know, Eugene, and how much you know, Phil. You don't know it all. And that's what he's trying to say here. That's what Solomon is saying. He said, I've tried everything. Man, I looked at the good, I looked at the bad, I looked at the foolish, I looked at the wise. I've tried to get an understanding of it all. And I found one thing about that, verse 23, but it was far from me. I just don't get it all. The truth of the matter is, we never will. This side of heaven. It's a journey. We never will know it all. He plainly saw that there was perfection in wisdom, but it was something that he will never attain in his life. It was a continuing journey. And I would say, Eugene and Phil, as much as you know, continue to learn. Don't let there be a day where we don't continue to strive, to learn, and to know more. And that's what Solomon is saying here. Verse 24, that which is far off and exceeding deep, who can find it? He was just saying, man, this is such a deep, deep area that the deeper I go, the more I realize I don't know, and I want to go deeper to know more. He's also saying, he continues the thought, that which is far off. The thought continuing is this, that which God did in creation and in providence at the beginning when he made Adam and Eve in perfection and with perfect wisdom is out of our reach. It's totally out of our reach. I was thinking about things that we believe that we know about. Thinking about things that really, truly is out of our reach from understanding. Can somebody tell me what the antediluvian earth was like? Can you tell me? Do you know what the antediluvian earth is? That's the time before the flood. What was it like? But yet, I've heard men talk about that as if they knew with 100% certainty exactly what it was like. It's too deep. It's beyond our reach. We can have ideas about it, and it's wonderful intellectually thinking about those things. There are many things in life like that. We can think that we have it all down pat. I get it, but we don't. Personally, I can tell you, I understand the stock market, but I don't understand the stock market. No matter how much I think I know, I can look at diminishing returns and diminishing marginal returns and the different nuances of that and think, man, I got this down. Linda, I'm going to make us a lot of money in the stock market. Then the next day I said, well, maybe not so fast. That's the way life is. We need to be careful about boasting ourselves up as if we have great knowledge about everything in life, because we don't. I'm going to move on for time's sake. He asked a rhetorical question in the last part, I think it's verse 24. Yeah, who can find it out? What's the answer to that? Nobody. This is the wisest man that ever lived, apart from Jesus Christ. Who can find it out? No one. I bet you wish you had, Josh, some of that knowledge of Phil and Eugene as you're doing your house. Verse 25, I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. He just simply saying, I've tried it all, and I'm not going to spend any time on this verse. He's saying, I tried everything to understand the fullness and the depth of wisdom in every area. And we've talked about that previously in Ecclesiastes. Let me tell you about foolishness and how people act and think sometimes. He in verse 25, he says, to know the wickedness of folly, even the foolishness and madness. I was living in Anchorage, Alaska, and we were at a church event. It was a camp. They had some buildings where people would go about 40 miles north of Anchorage. And on that property, there was a beautiful lake. The only problem with the lake, it was about that deep. For like from here to that church building. It was all it was. It was just that deep. We got there, and a guy brought his scuba diving gear out. The preacher told him, it's only that deep. And he continued in his foolishness to put that scuba diving gear on. And sure enough, you can see his head in the water all the way across with his rear end and his legs sticking up, just scooting along. Foolishness. You know, we think we know all there is about life. He was the scuba diving expert, the expert. But he didn't know the lake. I hope you see my point there. Verse 26. And I find, this is a tough verse here. I think I'm going to have a substitute teacher come in and teach this verse now. Eugene. And I find more bitter than death, the woman. This is the point of the entire chapter. Solomon is confessing his sin. His diligent study and his research and the observations that he made about life are getting to be revealed. We all know that Solomon had his share of women in his life. According to the Bible, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and he had investments in ibuprofen. No doubt about that. His wives were described as foreign princesses: Pharaoh's daughter, women of Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and the Hittites. This, apparently, is where he found consternation and sadness and woeful experiences of life. And he chose to make this pointed reference here because he was confessing. He was confessing his sin. He was confessing what he had done. He was confessing his lust. He was confessing his desire. He was confessing the regrets of life that he had. Turn to 1 Kings chapter 11. 1 Kings chapter 11. He's saying, I didn't know it all. I thought I could have all these wives and all these concubines. I thought I could do that. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Zidonites, and the Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Verse 5, for Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonites, and of Melcham, the abomination of the Ammonites. Verse 6, and Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. He is exposing the vanity of his life, and he's making a confession of how it hurt him in life. And he's cautioning us, other men, against this, loving strange women. I have seen guys mess their lives up in this area of life. And I believe you probably have too. He seems to be taking this opportunity to express his sincere repentance of the folly of his life. And it seemed very bitter to him. Verse 26 continues, whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. You know, have you ever been stuck with a barb? A fishing hook? There's not a lot to do in Alaska. You hunt, you ski, and you fish. And then you get in during the wintertime and you stay there. But when I been out fishing with a guy, we would go king salmon fishing. And pretty good size hooks with a barb on there. And one time he was fishing, or king salmon, and king salmon will do this. I don't know if you're aware of that. You throw the line out there, they hit the bait, and they take off. And your line goes zzz, and they just run. And you'll spend 30 minutes pulling them in, keeping the line taut. If you don't keep it taut, when they get closer to the boat, at times they can come out of the water and they will spit the hook back at you. Seen it happen many times. If the hook doesn't grab well. Did that one time to a friend, and by reflex went like this, and the hook and the barb went in there. You couldn't pull the hook out. You had to push it through to get it out. Barbs and snares. Solomon's saying that's what happens in life. Guys, you get hooked. You make wrong decisions of life, and it will get you. And you can't pull it out of your mind. Think about Joseph. I didn't mean to make you mad, Emily. Think about Joseph. Joseph escaped that barb, didn't he? Well, you may say, no, he was put in prison. He escaped the barb that enters the mind, that can hurt us for the rest of our life. Guys, I'm talking to you now. Be very careful, or you're going to have a barb in you that you can't pull out. Verse 26 continues, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Someone destitute of wisdom, someone destitute of the fear of God will be ensnared just like Solomon was. And he paid for it the rest of his life because of his lust for strange women. Verse 27, behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account. He went and he thought about all those women, the wives and the concubines that he had. And it ruined his life. The wisest man ever. And it ruined. And ladies, let me say, this applies to you on the reverse side as well. Keep your minds pure. Young unmarried guys, be careful. I got about one more minute left. Let's see here. Let's look at verse number 28. Which yet my soul seeketh, but I found not one. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those I have found not. What he's really talking about here, and I won't get deep into it, he's talking about the mental anguish that you will face in life if you don't get this right. You don't remain pure to your wife. You don't remain pure before marriage. There will be mental anguish in life that will hurt you. That's all Solomon is saying here about his regrets around 700 wives and 300 concubines and what they led him to do in life. You get mixed up with the wrong person. They're going to influence you, like I said earlier, and they're going to influence you away from God Almighty. Let's listen to the wisdom that Solomon is giving us. It's a wise man confessing his own mistakes and sins and faults in life. And he's opening his heart up so that we can see and not repeat the same thing that he has done. Let's listen to his advice in chapter 7. We're dismissed.